Just days after Donald Trump at Alligator Auschwitz, the concentration camp in the Florida Everglades, said that he would consider basically slavery for immigrants who had been detained, saying that he would basically loan them out to the farmers and the farmers would be the owners responsible for them. That immigrants could get a card that they could basically be checked out to these farmers and used as forced labor. Again, migrants who have committed no crimes and have done nothing wrong. Just days after that, Brooke Rollins, the Agriculture Secretary for the United States of America, which you have no idea how much it galls me that she is in charge of our agriculture. Remember, she's the one who said, who cares about egg prices? Everybody should just get backyard chickens. Everybody in the middle of a bird flu spike, even all of y'all in apartments, y'all are all working 2 and 3 jobs now trying to pay your bills. No, you just need to get chickens. Stop bitching about egg prices. Everybody just get chickens. That piece of work. She said yesterday there will be no amnesty for migrants after what Trump said, insinuating, hinting that they would be used for forced labor. She said there'll be no amnesty for them. Keep in mind that a large majority of Americans, I think it's something like 70% in a recent poll, said that they prefer a legal pathway for undocumented immigrants to stay and work in the United States, rather than seeing them round up, detained, or deported. A majority of Americans want our farm workers to get legal status here, and any of our undocumented immigrants, they do necessary work, vital, essential work. Our farm workers who plant and grow and harvest our food, y'all, are being rounded up out of the fields and stuffed into concentration camps, which is creating a massive labor shortage. I said this the other day. California farms are reporting that 70% of their farm workers are not showing up because they're afraid ICE is going to snatch them, or they have already been snatched. So in the wake of all of that, we hear this from Brooke Rollins, Agriculture Secretary.
The president has expressed concerns about how mass deportations would affect the farm industry. Do you have concerns on this front, and are you hearing about some of these top conservatives saying that there's a push for amnesty for this workforce?
I appreciate you bringing that up. There's been a lot of noise in the last few days and a lot of questions about where the president stands in his vision for farm labor. The first thing I'll say is the president has been unequivocal that there will be no amnesty, and I think that's very, very important. I and the rest of our cabinet certainly support that, effectuate that, and make sure that happens every single day. The second thing, to your question about mass deportations, the president and I have spoken about that once or twice, and he has always been of the mindset that at the end of the day, the promise to America to ensure that we have a 100% American workforce stands, but we must be strategic in how we are implementing the mass deportation so as not to compromise our food supply. Ultimately, the answer on this is automation, also some reform within the current governing structure, and then also when you think about there are 34 million able-bodied adults in our Medicaid program. There are plenty of workers in America, but we just have to make sure we're not compromising today, especially in the context of everything we're thinking about right now. So no amnesty under any circumstances. Mass deportations continue, but in a strategic and intentional way as we move our workforce toward more automation and toward a 100% American workforce.
So let's be clear here, the woman running the Department of Agriculture, she knows fuck all about agriculture, how food is grown and harvested in the United States. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, 25% of the vegetable cultivated farmland in the U.S. and 45% of the fruit acreage in the United States is dependent on, guess what, y'all? Hand harvesting. It is not automated. It can't be automated. It has to be done by real human beings out in the field with their delicate and dexterous fingers. 30% of all of the crops, fruit, nut, or vegetable, that are grown and harvested in the United States must be done by hand. They have no plan for automating our agriculture industry. There's no plan. There's no plan to automate the agriculture industry whatsoever. That is a straight up fabrication. Basically, like all of your salad greens, spinach, lettuce are delicate. They bruise easily. They have to be picked by hand. Same for things like raspberries. So much of our tender, delicate fruit crops have to be picked by hand. Melons, beefsteak tomatoes, peppers. I could just spend the next 5 minutes of this video listing those crops and explaining how they have to be harvested. I haven't even gotten in to all of the crops that are planted by hand and all of the people back at the packaging and shipping of these hand harvested foods. The work that they do, trimming and packaging, that's all done by hand. There's no plan to automate any of this shit. Brooke Rollins has no idea what the fuck she's talking about. As somebody who cares very, very much about sustainable agriculture, it just enrages me to think that she is in this position. How were more farmers not enraged that Brooke Rollins, like once again, perfectly illustrating a kakistocracy where the least qualified and most incompetent people are in charge of America's food system. Let's just continue with her incompetence and her very bold claims that are backed up by fuck all. She said that there's this plan to make 100% American workers in America. Cool. 73% of our agricultural workers are immigrants. 42% of those are undocumented. What is your plan to completely transition our agricultural workforce from almost entirely immigrants to American citizens who don't want to work for the kind of exploitive wages that we pay our farm laborers? It is grueling, physically taxing work. We have exploited our farm laborers for 200 years in this country. You do not in any way, shape, or form have a system set up to pay a living wage for those workers or to get Americans to want to do that job. You go ahead and do the math. According to the USDA, there's more than 22 million farm laborers in this country. Now, Brooke Rollins' plan, after she dumps them all off of Medicaid, is to make them all get a job picking in the fields. My poodle's as mad as I am over this. I'm super stoked I can hear one of my kids vacuuming in the other room, unprompted. So in the United States, Brooke Rollins is saying we're just going to make all of those people on Medicaid now work in the fields. 1 in 4 people on Medicaid is elderly or disabled. You want somebody's mama and papa picking in the fields. In order to get their nursing home coverage, in order to get their dementia care, they got to work 40 hours a week picking lettuce and cabbage. Is that what you're suggesting, Brooke Rollins? Let's keep in mind that 44% of people on Medicaid are already working full-time. They're getting Medicaid because they're being paid poverty wages. Medicaid is corporate welfare for their employers who do not give them any health care and do not pay them a living wage. More than 20% of people on Medicaid already work part-time, and the time that they're not working, they are engaged in things like caring for elderly and disabled members of their family, caring for children, going to school in order to get their education to improve their circumstances. The Trump regime and Brooke Rollins want you to believe that everybody on Medicaid who they classify as able to work is like some strapping young lad who's just a lazy motherfucker sitting on his mom's sofa playing, I don't know, World of Warcraft or like Stardew Valley and like zooted out of his gourd all day long. That's not true. The majority of people who are not classified as disabled who are on Medicaid are people who are disabled and are going through the years-long process to get Social Security disability. They're on Medicaid because they cannot work enough because they're already disabled. They're just not yet categorized as such because that is a long, protracted process. These are not people who can go work in the fields. These are not people who want to work in the fields, but they're not people who are going to go do that job. We have relied on migrant farm labor in this country, particularly I'm waving over here because of the West Coast where I live, for 200 plus years. It's absolutely delusional to act like we are going to get Americans to do these jobs that currently mostly immigrants do, mostly undocumented migrants do. We have farmers, Trumper farmers all around this country who are very quick to tell you when there is a shortage like there is right now. There was a cherry farmer up in Washington State who was just talking about the fact that migrants won't come pick his orchard right now because they're scared of ICE raids. And he cannot find any Americans to get the work done. The fruit is rotting on the trees because he cannot find any Americans who will do the work. If the migrants aren't there, it doesn't get picked. There's no automation that's going to happen. There is no American workforce waiting to take these jobs. And we could talk about how Trump said that immigrants are taking black jobs, they're doing black jobs. What he meant by that is he meant slavery, y'all. He meant black people being enslaved. He sees the work that migrants do as slave labor. Believe me, the next step is they are going to take migrants in detention and make them slave labor in the fields.